Thank you very much once again for joining my tutorial channel. And today we are going to look at a very interesting topic in Mikrotik. My name is Engineer Alfonso Diambo, and I'll be taking you through this tutorial. The topic that we are going to cover today is Mikrotik IP Cloud Service. And basically, IP Cloud Service is a very interesting service or a feature in the Mikrotik RouterOS. Most of the time we've been looking at the features of the RouterOS, and this time we have decided to look at how Mikrotik Cloud works. So at times you realize that you have challenges with accessing your router board, and probably you just need to use your local IP address or your local gateway to access your router, either through the Mikrotik Winbox tool or either through the browser. I want to take you through this simple feature which you can be able to use to access your router remotely. And so what is this Mikrotik Cloud? It is a feature that offers dynamic DNS name service for router board devices. And mostly it is useful when you have changing IP addresses that you have been allocated by your ISP. So IP Cloud is a Mikrotik service that allows you to access your router remotely. For us to access this, we will go to CLI or the terminal and just do IP Cloud, and then we'll be able to see the features. What is a DNS? Because this is now the core of this. Of course, DNS is a big area of topic that really require that we understand properly what it does and how it works. And maybe one time, if you do request in the comment section below, we'll be able to take you through how the DNS works until you are able to get your requested services online or over on internet. But in a nutshell, DNS is a system that helps us, resolve names, or helps internet to resolve IPs into different generic names. For example, if you have in your phone book, you have a name Alphonse, and you have my mobile number. So in that regard, you are not able to remember like every person's number offhand, but you can be able to remember names. So through those names, you can easily, resolve to a particular number. So that is how also internet works. So that DNS is responsible for translating domain names into IP addresses, because in the network space or the internet space, each and every device has a unique identifier, as we had described in our earlier tutorials or series, that is responsible for its communication over the internet. And of course, that is IP address. For the DDNS happen, it does update its records in two modes, either in A format record or in quad A. So A records are just for translating to IP version 4, and quad 4 is for IP version 6. Cloud provides something which we call network time protocol, which is at times is called SNMTP or just NTP service, which allows your network device to sync with global time. And also it is able to generate a DNS name based on your router's serial number. So it will take your router's serial number and generate a unique domain name. And then it is also able to support cloud backup of the router configurations. And then finally, it provides a public IP for your router, which you can use to access your router. And of course, for these things to work, of course, there are a few configurations that we must do. And I'm going to show you in a short while how to configure IP cloud service. So this is just a snapshot of some of the a few terminal syntax that you can use to set or to enable Mikrotik IP cloud service. You just tell it to enable dynamic DNS. Then you force it to update sometimes, because when, of course, it updates on a periodic way, like around 5 seconds. But of course, you can decide to update that. And then, of course, you need to set time update to automatic, and also set your time zone correctly so that it picks the right time. Now, so of course, this comes with a few challenges, and one of the challenges that I've seen and have met is that it is really challenging to implement cloud when your router is behind the network address translation protocol, that is the NAT. And therefore, for you to access this in the global network, then you need to do some more configurations on the NAT on the firewall, so that you can allow such communications to get in. And remember, IP clouds operate on what we call UDP. UDP is a way of communication through which packets are sent synchronously using UDP packets, unlike TCP. When you use TCP, where there are a lot of things like handshake and all that. So I think you'll be able to learn about the UDP versus TCP request. Now, allow me to get into the router, and then we can look at the practical part of it, which is really very important. And please take note on everything that we're going to do. So first of all, I'm going to do this using Winbox tool on the user interface, and then I'm going to use the CLI, either using other third-party telnetting or SSH tools, or rather I can also use inbuilt a CLI or terminal to just accomplish that. And the end goal is to see whether we can use the generated dynamic DNS to access our router without using our initial IP address that we had configured in the router. So without taking my time, I'm launching my Winbox. So this is my Winbox, and for this time, I'm going to click on the MAC address and then input my password and then tap connect. So this is my router OS interface. So I'll go to IP, then cloud. So if you click IP and cloud, by default, it is not enabled. So what I'm going to do is to enable it. Probably before enabling this, I can go to terminal here and just do IP. And then when I enter that, I'll see CL cloud. And then if I enter that, I'm now in the cloud, and then I can do print. And if I print, I'll be able to see the records. That dynamic DNS enabled is no. Dynamic DNS update interval is none, and update time is no, and public IP that is there is 102. That one, and then the status is updated. So we want to do the update. Probably we can do it through the terminal, and then just make it that way, or we can go do it from the graphical user interface. But let's try on this. So what we can do, we can say we can query and check what we can do. So in this place aspect, we can print, set, change properties, or even for some updates. So what we are going to do is to go back to our graphical user interface, and then we'll come back and check. So if we remove that and come back here, so we just click to enable and apply. So in this case, when we go back to our terminal and do print, we are going to see that our dynamic DNS has been enabled, yes, and the interval has not been set, it is still none, and update time is none, and the public IP is that one. And then you can see our automatically generated DNS name is there. So what do we need to do next so that all things are done? So we are going to set time, update, and then apply. So once we apply, we can go back to this terminal and check again. Now we are finding that we have time update is equals to yes, meaning we have updated that. So that from there we are good to go. But again, in the advanced setting, we can choose to send a local address so that in case the public address is not found, then the router can still send its local address to the cloud, and that will still help us to access the router OS using any other method apart from just using the local IP address. Now, if I apply this and come back to terminal and print details, so I'll see that everything is set to yes, and except for dynamic DNS update interval. So by default, update interval is set, and therefore we don't need to really worry more about that. But again, there is another thing that we need to check. We need to make sure that our time is also up to date. So how do we set our time? You go to system and go to clock. So in the system clock, you can see now it is telling me that it is 21:21:50, and that is what I'm seeing here, 21:21. So meaning my time is automatically set, and I have set my time time zone auto detect on, so that it can be able to detect my current time zone. And that will be really helpful because Mikrotik is going to use NTP server service of the cloud to sync with our local time. But now let's see how this works. So if I go back to cloud and pick this unique DNS, so what I'm going to do is to exit from, I'm going to log out. And once I log out, I'm going to log in again, now using the dynamic DNS, and then I'll put my password and try to connect back. Of course, you can see I can now log in into my Winbox with the generated DNS, and I think if I go to if I go to logs, I should be able to see that there is a log that is coming, and it says that there is kind of a access that is coming in. There is some log traffics coming in from the bridge, saying that there is a MAC address. Of course, that MAC address is your laptop, through which the IP and the TCP connection has been acknowledged. And so that is just I've just flagged this to in my file on the firewall. I've just tried to make sure that it tells me if there are some connections that are coming in through the Winbox port. And how did I do that? So I went to IP and firewalls, and in the firewalls I added this role. This role is checking any input that is coming through a TCP protocol, but on port 8291, which is a default Winbox port. So the Winbox is already sending. So in the action, I've just told it to log it. It accepts yes, but log it with a prefix cloud. If you look at our logs, you will see that there is a cloud prefix with input in the interface of Breathe that is coming out or coming in as a log. So it is being logged as an activity. So now I think that one we have achieved. And now let us check if again we can be able to use the same um, or the same DNS name and log in via the browser. So now what I'm going to do, I'm not going to log out from the Winbox, but I'm going to launch another interface of the browser. So this is my browser, and I'll just copy and paste it there and then say hit. So you can see, ladies and gentlemen, that now I am on my router interface on via the web. And in fact, from here, I can even check the graphs. You can see the graphs here. So you can come here. Of course, you need to activate your graphs, but this just tells you that I'm connected to the router. So now, what do I need to do? Let me just log in, and then you can see what is happening. So I've logged in. Actually, I'm now on accessing the same router, but via a different method. Now I'm using the browser, and you can see that I'm not using any IP address. I'm just using the generated dynamic DNS. And again, I can go to logs. It should tell me that there is a log that should be should be seen here. And still you can see there's a cloud input, there is a source, this is my MAC address and protocol, and those are the IP that I'm getting, and that is that. So this is kind of a way to track and see whether things are happening. But of course, as I mentioned earlier, this is purposely for lab work and documentation, and nothing here is live network. So in the next tutorial, we are going to see how we can use cloud to safely back up our configurations and download them back into our router without having problems. So that will help us. As network engineer, you'll help you to have a secure store or access to your previous configuration, just in case maybe the system crash, or in cases where you've deleted something, or we've done a configuration that you don't really understand how it came about. So in that scenario, you'll be able to, you know, restore the configurations that you had made earlier before. Thank you very much, and thank you for watching. If you like this video, please subscribe, share, and leave a comment.